David.
Spot the dog.
So we've known each other for a really long time. You and I have known each other for 20 years. And Paul, I've known you for 30 years.
30
Almost
years.
30 years. I can't believe you're that old. And I think that when you started coming around and we became friends, I think you were visiting me.
Yeah.
And that's when
I met at your house 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And we all got
That's
together.
when you only had one book, and we just heard an
I had one book, yeah.
And one from there.
I'm going to read that book one of these days.
And I was awestruck because Paul, I was at Tannen's Magic Camp in, I think, 1983. I was actually with Cohen there, and which is 30 years ago, even scarier. But so, the only thing you'd see of Paul is this genius inventor with this huge red mustache, and I'd look at him and just be like, wow, this guy's incredible. So, back then you didn't have videos and stuff, so it was like, close-up kind of guy and things like that. And I would try to learn these really cool things, and I'd go do them, and they were, they're instant magic. Like, it's actually like real magic, like those things that you would create. And then when videos started coming out, you could actually see those pieces of magic. It was like, it opened up a whole new world, because it was like, I felt that feeling of like a kid that has complete wonder, and it was in all the things that you did. So that was kind of like, Paul Harris, and then the guys in New York that hung out at the Magic Club. It was called Rubens, it was a deli. It was like Harry Lorraine and Frank Garcia, and all these different clever guys would come into town. But it wasn't until Bill Kalush came in that my whole world got fucking turned over, because it was, because I had seen, like, Paul's magic was like astonishment and fun and amazing, but Bill was very serious, so he had like a very serious outlook on everything. Like, everything was about technicality and everything was about history. So I was lucky that you two guys were basically my biggest influences in magic growing up. And what happened was, when Bill walked into that magic deli, he did a couple of moves that every magician in there were freaking out over, because it was just like, it looked like a hot knife through butter. It was fucking crazy. And then Bill, and he was with Michael Weber, and they came in, blew everybody's minds, and left immediately. But I chased Bill out, and I was like, please show me this. And he's like, don't bother, kid. I spent 10 years on it. You'll never get it. Which was like, the right thing to say to me, because it was like the next 6 months, every day, 10 hours a day on the one move that he showed me. And I never knew if I was going to see him again. And then at that time, I was working restaurants in Manhattan, which is like the ultimate learning curve, because to have to walk up to this table of fancy people that wants nothing to do with you is a real, you have to get the magic quickly, hit them, and win. And there's things that you don't really think about that you can only learn by doing. So it's like the distance that you stand from somebody. If you're too close, you're annoying. If you're too far away, you have no power. So it's like learning how to engage somebody quickly and hit with, the strongest stuff right away. So that was kind of, it was that combination was where I started to develop a kind of understanding of what was good to me in magic. But the other problem was, at that time, the only things that I saw on television were like world's greatest, it was called World's Greatest Magic, and it was all these phenomenal magicians, like guys like Bill Malone, that when you see him performing, he kills. But on World's Greatest Magic, it was like this artifice. It was like this bullshit set, and it was like, no, but it was like you'd see him doing these amazing things, but then the reactions were this. And it's like, when I was doing magic to people, it didn't, okay, so it was Park Avenue Restaurants was one place, but then it would be like in a parking lot to a bunch of guys that just saw me, doing a one-handed shuffle and stuff, and I'd do it to the guys working there, and they'd run away screaming. And I started to think that what's amazing about magic is just how people, it shows the best side of them. Like, that's what magic does. So I had this idea, and this was my mission statement. So like, my mission statement before I had anything kind of understood was, I'm going to show that all people whether you're rich, poor, white, black, Jewish, Christian, young or old, I'm going to show that all people have a very good side to them. So that was like kind of my whole purpose, was to show that using magic. And then that's where I kind of discovered you two guys in my life, and you helped, move that forward.
That's a lot.
Well, I know that you had an idea that, and you were really young. I mean, you were practically living in a little beater white car that you had. And you had this idea that you could turn the camera around, that the camera watching from a person's seat in a theater is not the only way to make a magic show for television. And you went out and filmed a little bit, and I'm thinking, just like you said, really kind of traditional and strict. And he showed me the video, and I said, you know what? First off, I didn't believe that you'd really paid your dues at that point. And I said, because I didn't know. You said, well, I've got a deal. Maybe ABC's interested. Maybe somebody's interested.
Bill said, yeah, you should give it to David Williamson. See you later.
Now you're telling me.
I did, and
so I called Michael Weber and Paul Harris and said, guys, I got a show, help.
It's true, and you did it all, and I was basically unaware even that what was going on. You went off with Weber and with Paul and shot that first show, and I didn't really, other than being your friend, and showing you some material before that, but I certainly wasn't part of that show at all. And what was funny is that didn't stop me from being very excited and watching it. And when it came on TV, I remember I was in Michigan with a widow of a friend of mine, and we were watching this show, and as soon as it was over, I dialed your phone, and I was actually a little surprised that you answered. Not because it was me, I just figured everybody in the world must have been calling. And I told you I think that was the greatest show I've ever seen on television, and that I'd love to work with you on anything in the future. And
then I moved into Bill's pantry room, which is true, but he had the library, so he would come in and show me all these cool books and all these cool stunts and things that happened historically. But so in between Bill saying give the show to Williamson, I called Weber, I called Paul Harris. I said, Paul, so I have this concept, and it's a tape I shot. Can I come meet you? So you were living in Estes Park, Colorado, where The Shining was shot, the exteriors. So it was wintertime, I believe. And I went to visit Paul. And, Paul was kind of like this nomadic figure that just wandered around. He didn't really have many possessions, but he'd like, come visit me here. So I was like, great. So I went to see Paul, and we actually, I believe we took like a mushroom the first night. Like we shared a mushroom.
Like with spaghetti?
Yeah.
And we actually started hallucinating, and we're wandering around, and that's true.
Don't worry, this is permanent.
And so we're wandering around Estes Park in the middle of the winter, and just laughing our heads off. And my big dilemma was I was saying to Paul, is it okay to just do really simple things? Because I always thought, like, if a real magician existed, like a real magician wouldn't have a big patter. I kind of felt like a real magician would just like pick something up, like a rock, and say, look, and he'd squeeze it and it would become sand. So I kind of felt like the anti-presentation would be more believable in a weird way. And then I started to work with Paul on what are the simplest things that we could do that would affect people on a guttural level. And that was kind of like, I think that was the whole concept, to do simple things that would affect somebody immediately that they possibly could believe, and then walk away. So it's like, he called it Urban Shaman. It's like you enter somebody's life, you try to affect them for a moment, and then you wander away, which was, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
Well, the first show was a big success. It bred other shows, and we somehow worked the idea of a stunt into there, and that turned into other stunts. I have a question, though, for you. I think people know the history to some extent of some of this. I think the idea of the stunt came, to be honest, out of a desperation that ABC wasn't going to really promote a one-time show.
You showed me that.
I understand, but we wanted to do something that made it special, that people would immediately understand this was different. And we talked about lots of things, including Jadoo and John Keel's book, and about the buried Indians.
Yeah,
buried
Bill
alive.
showed me the picture of the fakir buried alive, and I said, that's it. That's perfect. And Bill said, you know, so let's bury you in Central Park. We'll put you in there, sneak you out, and then a month later we'll bring you back. You'll try to lose some weight. And I kind of thought that like that wouldn't be that much fun because I felt like I'd feel like not that I don't anyway, but I feel like a huge fake. So the idea of like completely faking it was not right to me. So I decided that I felt like it's not difficult to be buried alive for a week for real and just survive on almost nothing. So I want, you know, the idea was to make it see-through so everybody could see that it was real. And that one was really successful in a lot of ways, but the thing about it was it kept pushing itself and it kept pushing. And then what happened was I think it kind of got to a point where it started all to feel mundane. Like I mean, everything started to feel repetitive. So I think for the last 4 years, I've kind of backed away from doing things public just to rework everything, to rethink it and to figure out what's interesting, what's new, what's real, and try to figure out how to reapply it to what I'm doing. So, you know, we have been working really hard, and starting this October, I'm going to be back in action, doing things that I actually believe are fun and interesting. So
That's great. Yay.
What do you really think about the kind of, I mean, you transformed magic on television for the most part. There are lots of people that do magic on television in the same style as street magic, and they do it in different ways. So, and I'm really asking you this, the question for me, because I don't really know how you feel. What do you really think when you see other people doing that kind of material? You think it's good? Are you proud that, all right, they're following behind, I transformed how you have to do magic on television this way now? Or does it annoy you that people look like imitators? I mean, Houdini was really upset by imitators, but he didn't need to be.
Well, I don't actually get upset by imitators or anything like that, but at all. But I do think that I do feel like, well, first of all, I have a tough time watching most things, including like most of the shows I've done, with the exception of like the first two. So as far as, you know, I think the whole concept is just for somebody to come out and do something that I need to watch, and that's really all it's about. So if I see something that's amazing, like I just saw, Jan showed me this clip of him doing something that was like so new and so experimental and so beautiful. It's like, holy shit, yeah, that's what needs to happen. So, and I think when that happens, it's interesting. But as far as, you know, television, television, it's a machine that turns itself and needs to fill airspace and try to do whatever they. So I think anybody that works really hard and pushes and does whatever they're doing, I think all the power to them, basically.
Do you think you'll ever be doing a live show?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal.
So that's the whole goal. Okay.
That's the thing I've been the most afraid of, because it's such a different concept. And also I'm in a place where I can't really go out there and practice a live show in front of just a normal audience, because it's too risky with everything. So what I've been doing is I've been going into like prisons and juvenile prison centers and stuff like that, and practicing doing a stage show back to back in that type of scenario. So I'm like setting up a magic castle environment, but in like in a prison, or in a juvenile prison. And I'm trying to build up some form of like a stage personality, because it's so different than doing what I've been doing. TV is, you get to build a character, kind of like somebody that's like this creepy weird person that fucks with people and gets into their, but for stage, you need to amplify everything. You need to communicate. You need to somehow affect everybody. And it's been, so that's been a real task and journey, but it's amazing. And the rewards are incredible so far.
Can't wait to see it.
We'll see.
So we've got a couple of minutes left, and we've both asked you some questions. Can we open it up to the room? I mean, it's pretty amazing that we're in a room full of 33 of the most amazing people in the world, and they might have some really good questions. So other than Williamson, do we have anybody that... Where's my royalty?
Someone asked Paul about kissing that dog. That's what.
So much for that.
That was
theory.
only the first half of the story.
Okay, you created the image, and you are street you look street, you act street. Do you think about the future and what you're going to have to morph into? Because, you know, eventually you're going to kind of be too old for that look. You really don't want to grow up looking like Paul Harris, do you?
I was hoping to.
Or Paul Daniels.
Or Paul Daniels.
I was just going to redo the tattoo on the hand and then hope to kickstart that.
We did that yesterday. A good photo, thank you. No, I just wondered.
No, it is
you plan
very
on changing.
different. Yeah, it is.
I've watched magic acts over the years, and they've started out with all of the energy and the dynamic attitudes, and they dress young, and it's great. But I keep thinking, yo, where you going? And one by one, I've seen them drop off the main scene because they don't look right for their age.
Right.
So,
Well, when I was a kid, I was always obsessed with Uri Geller, and the reason why, I didn't like part of what he was doing, which is just pure, you know, that one thing. But what I did like is he would go on stage and he'd do one simple thing, and he would make it so believable because he believed in it himself. And to me, it's not about the appearance necessarily. To me, I think it has to be like the emotion that you can pull out of yourself, or you know, the honesty, as ironic as that sounds. So yeah, that's been the real goal, has been trying to figure out how to find some sort of a truth or an emotion, or giving yourself to an audience in a way that they actually know that you're giving them everything that you have, to the point that you would give up everything.
okay, that's the difference in our cultures. That's an American answer. And I'm English, but when I get home, I'll tell Yuri what you said, because he lives just round the bend in the river from me. Okay?
No, there's many things I've done to prove
it was straight when he moved in. It's bent now. Okay, that's it.
All right. Well, I think that rounds out our time, and
I have one more question, please.
I can't hear. Who is that?
One question, please.
your
Bill
pardon,
Malone, sir.
Beg your pardon?
Bill Malone, sir. Mr. Blaine, which one is Mr.? This one on the left? Yeah. Hey.
Who's left?
Yeah, this is directed to Mr. Blaine. How does it feel to be a new dad?
It's fucking amazing.
Awesome.
That's been the last magic thing I've done in the last 4 years. That was the most incredible thing of all. So
Thank you, Mr. Blaine.
she's learning to do a double lift already. and the tamari stack she's got, the first 5 cards.
The first 5 cards. That's great. Okay.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, David and Paul and Bill.